Greetings, folks, it's the Centipede here, and I've decided to start a video log, or vlog, as it's often called by people who use slightly outdated net terminology. Okay, so much for being clever. Well, I decided to do this because my boss wants me to do a blog. One of my bosses, my side job, wants me to do a blog, but I don't really do the whole bloggy, posty, diary thing, to be perfectly honest. And I was actually getting a lot of light off of my secondary monitor. There we go. And given how I usually think aloud to myself when I'm alone, I figured that talking to an empty room and a video screen would be more socially acceptable than just talking to myself by myself. And seeing how it's something I already do, maybe I can turn it into, I don't know, something sort of like a habit. Anyway, I was inspired to do this one thanks to Aaron, who's been part of the whole evolutionist, creationist thing. Did I actually use the word evolutionist? I'm sorry. Science versus made-up fantasy argument on YouTube. Yeah, it pretty much describes how I come down with it. And he's a very intelligent guy, and this is kind of in response to a few statements. He did remark that religion is sort of an intellectual or philosophical placebo. Because, actually I can agree with that. It explains why I believe the things that I do. Humans generally like to have the world be simple, have the world make sense. And because of this, they will tend to make explanations for things. And because they want their lives to have a reason, then going with the purely atheist concept of we're here, ta-da, make your own reason, that doesn't solve the existential crisis for anyone. So people prefer to have a reason for their existence outside of themselves. And hence you'll get faiths and religions. And I agree that it's primarily a placebo. But I believe myself, so how do I justify that? Well, how it comes down is I think it's possible to have irrational beliefs for rational reasons. Most people do, but they're not altogether necessarily willing to say it right up front. Like, for example, the foundation of most Western liberalism, that individuals and their rights are on par with the rights of society in general, that the freedom of speech is important, freedom of conscience, those sorts of things. That the defense of these rights actually take precedence to the rights of the body politic. So if I say something that could be detrimental to society as a whole, I should still be allowed to say it because it's my right to say it, rather than I should suppress myself or I should be suppressed so that society may survive. That's a very Western thing. And I certainly hold dear to it, but what is the objective standard for this? What is, it's, to believe that this is better or this is worthwhile. That is in of itself a value statement, and it's an opinionated value statement, but without evidence, without some sort of reasoning from axiomatic principles. What's it mean, why? Most people are willing to say that freedom of speech is important. Why is it important, and why is it more important than, say, measured censorship for the body politic? Most Westerners agree with the concept that the individual must, or especially in, the States, most individuals, you have to take life and grab it and, pursuit of happiness, where I, as an individual, have to go out and do my thing. Now, take this from a more Eastern collectivist standpoint, which I'm not saying is wrong, but it is different, I would say equally valid, is that I should act to serve the greater whole, whatever the greater whole decides that is. I actually think it's a balance between the two. But what makes the Western viewpoint better than the Eastern viewpoint, or what have you? Or is there anything? No, these are irrational concepts. There's no such thing. There's no, honor doesn't exist. It is something we made up. Uh, Most philosophical truth, because we are imperfect beings, are things we make up. Morality, I do believe, is highly relative, because what morality does, natural law. What morality does a wolf have? Come on. I don't want to rant too much, but to get back on track, all of these things are irrational, but you can believe them for rational reasons. We can believe that honor and justice are important and exist so that we can maintain a society. I, for one, have the irrational belief that a god exists, does not interfere with the natural working of the universe nowadays, outside of any scientifically derived principles. I don't believe in a supernatural god in that measure. I'm a deist in the sense that God starts it off of, say, the Big Bang, as theory currently states, and then wanders off, does its own thing. Is this a God of the Gaps argument? It is. Is it a rational belief? No, it's not. But why do I believe it? Because it makes me feel better. I know rationally that having this sort of belief makes me feel better about my place in the universe, and that it really doesn't have anything to do with anything outside of that context. Because in everyday terms, I'm extremely secular. I look at things scientifically, rationally. I have very little time for superstitious arguments, and so I have this theistic belief, which would tick off theists because it's not an intercessory god, and tick off atheists because there's a god to begin with, but it works for me because it makes me feel better. Now, if people want to believe that God's this guy with a flowing beard, and he sent his son to die on a cross for the sins of mankind that he automatically put in there, or that there is absolutely no point at all to existence except that which you make of it yourself, that's fine. If that's what makes you if that's what makes you a better person, cool beans. And so that's where I'm going to get into the next step against something that Aaron said, which I do have to kind of disagree with, in that religion is not intrinsically bad, but it tends to be bad in his viewpoint. I can understand why he thinks that. But I look at religion like any other social group or technology, and that it could go either way. You will have all sorts of good people who are brought together by religion. They learn to be better people through it, and take those lessons out into the greater world. And then you have people who basically come together to be nut jobs, and they get nuttier, and they go out to be in the greater world to be even nuttier than they were initially. So it varies, like any other social grouping. But seeing how all human societies have these groups which are supposed to inculcate various moral tendencies and basically rules for how to live, let's have it. A religion probably plays one of those major roles, is how do we teach people to be good? When you have a society that isn't very big on reading, secular philosophy, then religion is going to be your next best thing. And the downside is that it is easily abused because, it's easily abused and stable. Because you said God did it, and you can't argue with God, and it's easily abused because God can do anything. So if he says, go kill them over there, God said so, go do it. And that would be a bad factor of religion. But a lot of churches I've been in have always tried to promote what are even secularly good values. And there's been a few which haven't. And so I think it depends. But, call me a John Stuart Mill utilitarian if you want to. But I figure that it's all about the results. I'm going to time out now.